Rich people. They've existed as long as the guy who discovered money existed. And that guy got really rich, and he went into town and said, "I'll buy every copy of everything, sir." And then somehow, everyone just knew what he meant automatically, and gave him whatever he wanted until he worked his way into a Fortune 500 company, which is where he had his first delusions of grandeur, along with many of his first power fantasies involving murder. A momentous occasion. That sweet, sweet man was none other than Bill Gates. So anyway, roughly 2,000 years later, this movie came out. So we start the movie with some of the most dog shit looking food I've ever seen in my life. I mean, these portions are bullshit. And at one of the tables, we meet our main friend, Patrick Bacon, and his friends, who are just sitting around repeating the word money over and over again. And someone does throw in a mention of cocaine and some light anti-Semitism, which really sets the scene for the deep, deep characters present within this movie. Patty Bacon heads over to an industrial club that looks like it reeks of gasoline, and he orders a drink at this bar and tells this bartender he's gonna pop her head off like a toothpaste tube. And of course, they both just laugh it off because of the narrative trick that's being done here. Patrick is just a silly goose. Then we see Patrick's apartment unit straight out of a Lunesta commercial. He gives us a rundown of his daily skin routine, and we even catch a glimpse of the view outside of his balcony, which is a horribly angled backdrop photo of New York City. After saying some more very silly stuff, we get the meme scene.
Number one victory.
Shut the fuck up.
He gets into his office, aka the Bacon Station, which is accompanied by yet another impossible angle of New York City. I mean, this fucking building would have to be like leaning over New York City for him to have that angle. And he proceeds to be an even sillier goose to his assistant. He's telling her to wear high heels around him and that sort of thing. Just pearly things. Then we get to meet his
supposed fiance,
Reese Witherspoon, who asks him to marry her, but he
can't take the time off work.
But it's all good because she's having an affair with his buddy Timothy, and he's also having an affair with her buddy Timothy. He goes to a dry cleaner with a hilarious prank where he brings in some bed sheets covered in cranberry juice, but little do the dry cleaners know that it's actually juice. His old spring fling Vicky comes in and he pawns her off on the dry cleaning people and he gets the hell out of there. Then stupid ass Paul Allen shows up and he invites Patrick's friend Marcus to dinner with him, but he just uses Patrick's face instead of Marcus's face to invite him. And Paul Allen gets the hell out of there. All the boys are left there in the boardroom and they all whip out their hogs and they show each other. And it's all as fun and silly as it's always been. Just a couple of guys being guys. Until the Bacon Boy himself asks to see a picture of dumbass Paul Allen's hog. Ugh. Big mistake, buddy. You know how many yoga classes that thing's been to? It's basically got a six-pack and it is very malleable. When Patrick lays his eyes on Paul Allen's dumbass, glistening, chiseled, fat, red-hot, sloppy, rock-hard trouser snake, it shakes him to his core. It's obviously unacceptable that anyone have a yogurt slinger as immaculate as this one, especially doofy-ass Paul Allen. So then he stabs a homeless guy and kills his dog, and what better to celebrate that than getting a face massage? Later at the Christmas party, Patrick gets to finally see Reese Witherspoon's hog, and then he meets Paul Allen for dinner in place of Marcus. And Paul Allen calls Patrick a big dum-dum, so as anyone else would do, he takes him back to his apartment, reads him a Reddit copy pasta about George Michael, and then murders him with a very nice and shiny rich people axe. He puts his body in a wardrobe bag and puts it in the back of a taxi, of which the driver gives 0 fucks. New York, baby! Land of opportunity! Okay, fee for you is $105.25, let's go. Then he goes to Paul Allen's apartment, packs his luggage, and leaves a voicemail doing a very accurate yet insulting Jared Leto impersonation. The next day, Detective Questions Montgomery comes flying into Patrick's Bacon Station and asks him, "Hey, did you kill Paul Allen?" To which Patrick says, "Who, me? Nuh-uh." So anyway, Patrick Bacon,
my name's Paul Allen.
Yeah, that guy, picks up a hooker and tells her, "I want you to wash your vagina and then pretend to be my disgruntled fiance. She's like, you got it, dude, I'm washing my pussy. Then he gives them both that same Reddit copy pasta about some other band and makes a hilarious movie with them. It's a lot of fun. Then Patrick and the other two fuckos sit in a circle and are just back and forth at each other saying, aren't girls so stupid? Yeah, girls are so dumb. No girls allowed in this club. I want to cut off their heads and put them on sticks as decorations. Anyway, girls are so dumb. Then Lufus comes up to all of them and shows them all his new and improved one-eyed monster. I mean, this thing's thick. Patrick stares at the glaze of it, the girth, the texture. He becomes so enamored by it that he immediately follows Lufus into the bathroom, puts on some gloves, and tries to give Lufus a nice old-fashioned. But he stops short because,
Gotta return some videotapes.
the Bacon Man goes into work to find Detective Questions looking to pry. However, Patty's on a mission now to show everyone how much of a responsible video renter he is.
Guess I was probably returning videotapes.
Bacon and company find themselves later that night in a club bathroom doing bumps, whilst throwing out both F-bombs and F-slurs. Patrick sits down with a few new people, and he proceeds to be a silly goose with one of the friendly ladies sitting with him until she gives him a lock of her hair as a keepsake to take to work the next morning. The day after that, old Sly Pat makes reservations for the most ill-portioned dog-shit restaurant in all the land for him and his receptionist, except no he doesn't, and he attempts to kill her at his apartment later instead because he's just such a silly goose. Silly Pat ends up having a nice dinner with Detective Questions the next day, where he grills him with the questions he's asking. I mean, he's asking stuff like, the Christmas party has your name on the list. And Patrick's like, Mark is his name? No, yours. Whose? Patrick Bacon. I'm Marcus Bacon. You're Patrick Bacon. You're Patrick Bacon. I'm Detective Marcus. And I'm Patrick Questions. Wait, no. I'm Patrick Questions. You're Martrick Bacon. Hang on, no. I'm Detective Questions. And I'm Patrick Bacon. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think we're done here. Later that night, he asks that hooker from earlier back to his apartment, and she says, no, dude, I got hurt really bad last time. I've been running into health problems, and my pussy's been mad chafing. And he says, will my friend, Mr. Abraham Lincoln, be able to convince you? He and the hooker go back to Paul Allen's apartment. He mumbles the same copy pasta to her and the other lady, and then he proceeds to start biting a little too hard when they end up having sex. So the hooker finds all the bodies in his apartment, and then Patrick chases her out with a chainsaw. She bangs on all the neighboring apartment doors, but these neighbors are way too busy minding their own damn business, and this results in ultimately Patrick getting a bullseye with his chainsaw into the hooker's back. The next morning, the Bacon Man himself breaks up with his girlfriend because of the need to be an upstanding video renter.
I have to return some videotapes.
Later that night, we find Patty at his favorite place in the whole world, an ATM. And we also find that it's low on stray cats, which, as we all know, like a car needs gas, this ATM needs a stray cat. So Patrick takes it upon himself to get it up and running again. But just then, as he's trying to refill the stray cat meter, an elderly woman comes up to him and she gets upset that he's taking way too long at the ATM, so he shoots her in the fucking chest. So then the 5-0 show up and they start chasing our boy Mr. Smith.
Burning the midnight oil, Mr. Smith.
I mean Patrick Bacon down into this ritzy building lobby where he shoots a very friendly security guard and then makes his way back up into his office where he calls in the show and recaps the whole movie to him. Then that next morning, he wakes up in Paul Allen's place to find that someone stole all the dead bodies that were hanging out in there. And there's a realtor in there. And she comes up to him and she's all, hey, who are you? And he's all like, weren't there like several mangled bodies in here? No, you should leave. Which is exactly something that a realtor would say and do if she was to dress up an apartment to get the showing to look good and ready. New York realtors don't give a shit, man. Anyway, Patty's macro dosing loony pills at this point. He calls the receptionist. He's just on the phone like, oh, fuck. And then he gets to this company event where he talks to his friend who's all like, wasn't that crazy how Patrick Bacon killed all those people? And Pat says, wait, I'm Patrick Bacon. No, you're Davis. If I'm Davis, who are you? I'm Jason. I've literally been a character in this movie the entire time. Well, I'm not Davis, I'm Bacon. And then this other meme happens.
Why isn't it possible?
It's just not.
Why not, you stupid bastard?
So wait, hold up here. Does this dude just not know who Patrick Bacon is? And is he actually mistaking him for someone else? Is that what stupid ass, dumbass Paul Allen did earlier? Did the murders ever happen in the first place? Or did Patrick Bacon create all of his coworkers in his mind and they actually don't exist at all? And they were just figments of his imagination all along, including this guy that he's talking to right now? Or is Patrick Bacon not actually a main character of the movie and each of the events that happen were done by several different characters just posing as Patrick Bacon, both in their heads to cope with the guilt and with the evidence to not be assumed in each of the crimes because they all obviously hate Patrick Bacon so much? Or was Patrick Bacon pretending to be all of these different people at different times because of his urgent need to fit in with them? So he assumed all of their identities and performed almost every pivotal part of the story, posing as all of them? Or did the writer of this story write Patrick Bacon as one example of many different clones with this same lifestyle and intended Patrick Bacon to represent several different characters, essentially posing as a commentary of rich metropolitan businessmen in the 1980s and making the claim that they're all so much alike that they're basically interchangeable? So ultimately, it doesn't matter who is doing what in the story, since the whole thing is a critique of young American wealth on the whole. Also, what happened to the Victoria plotline? We just kind of brought her in and then we never see her again. I don't understand that. Anyway, a few people have been telling me to do this movie. It's obviously very heavily memed today and a lot of people really like it. It's a little over 20 years old now and it's still very culturally significant. I definitely understand why people like it. I think there's a little bit more than what we might see on the surface to how this movie was written. That being said, I think a lot of people misinterpret the meaning of this movie, but I do enjoy the memes because it's kind of like a purposeful misinterpretation of the characters in this movie, which ultimately makes it pretty funny. If I had to rate this movie from a nail gun to a chainsaw, I'd have to give it a shiny, nice looking rich person axe. But what do you guys think of this movie? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Did I do a bad enough job of explaining it? And what do y'all want me to explain badly next? Thanks so much for watching. Love you lots.